Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to be out of Washington and to be here and talking about small business and the efforts of the federal government at a great center that is doing fantastic work, and we'll see the successes of that in a few minutes. I appreciate the regional administrator of SBA being here as well, Jorge Silva-Puras, who I've known for quite some time, and we're thrilled that he's doing a good job as our regional administrator, and welcome him to New Jersey in this process. I wanted to highlight some of what we're doing. Sometimes in the midst of our daily interactions, we lose sight. You know, we're having a big debate in the country about what role the government should or should not play. And I'd like to think that this is a role that the federal government should be playing. That at the end of the day, trying to create economic opportunity, trying to stimulate the possibility for private entrepreneurship to take place, which is the greatest rate of growth of jobs in our country comes from small and mid-sized businesses. But in this environment in which we have such a challenge in the commercial marketplace, that having the wherewithal to have the access to the capital that is necessary to do that has been an even greater challenge than it normally is. And as I've traveled the state, I have been listening to the families of our state and listening to the challenges of small businesses, and trying as a member of the Senate Banking and Finance Committee to figure out how do we fashion responses to those challenges. And the good news is that we're coming out of one of the worst economic crises in a generation. I'll never forget when the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, came before members of the Banking Committee and leadership in November of 2008, after the elections had taken place, and then revealed to members of the committee that in fact a series of financial institutions were going to collapse, and that if they collapsed, they would create systemic risk to the entire country's economy. And I remember the question and answer session in which I asked the chairman, surely you must have enough tools at the Federal Reserve to get us through this period of time so we can think more proactively about how we deal with that challenge instead of rushing into it. And he said the most chilling thing I've heard in 36 years of public service. He said, Senator, if you and your colleagues don't act in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will have a global, his words not mine, financial meltdown. And the room was stunned. And I said to Mr. Chairman, you mean a new depression? Because if we have a global financial meltdown, markets collapse, pancake crosses across the globe, and what that means, we're in essence looking at a new depression. And he said, well, if we allow it to happen, that's in essence what would happen. And Ben Bernanke is not a politician, although I hope politicians in that regard. He is an academician. His experience and doctorate is in Depression-era economics, how this country got into the last depression, how Roosevelt got us out of that depression, what worked and what did not work. So when he said we will have a global financial meltdown, it was incredibly powerful. And so that's where we were just 2 years ago in November of 2000. I don't think most New Jerseyans or Americans understand how badly the situation was. And we were on the verge of an abyss. And in the context of that, then the president comes to office in January of 2009, in late January, and before he can even take the oath of office, we've lost 250,000 jobs in January of 2009, lost 250,000 jobs in February of 2009 before he could even get his cabinet approved, lost another 250,000 jobs in March of 2009 before we could get legislation to the Congress, lost 2 million jobs to add it to the 4 million that were lost in 2008 before we could try to stimulate this economy. And so we had private sector activity that was virtually nil. And that's the challenges that we face. And in that challenge, I've listened to families across the state and listened to the challenges small business have. And so we created our Kitchen Economic Initiative, because it's basically listening to families about their challenges and trying to respond about how we can make it better. Now the good news is it was reported in the press of Atlantic City last week that the number of small business administration loans doubled, tripled, quadrupled. The depending on the county and indicating an economic rebound in southern New Jersey. I call that good news. We're moving in the right direction. The Small Business Job Act of 2010, which I was privileged to be a sponsor and supporter of, is putting $54 million in the hands of small businesses. It's fueling an explosion in lending and access to capital, and it is making a difference. It is helping us tackle those basic issues that New Jersey families talk about every night around the kitchen table. How they're going to keep their store open. How can they get a loan? Where will there be more jobs? And it's part of our Kitchen Table Economic Initiative, and it's working. If you want to see how we're working not only to help small businesses, how we're working to try to create jobs, and ease the credit burden on families, if you go to our website at menendez.senate.gov and click on the Kitchen Table Initiative banner, you'll see the stories of people who have contacted me and what we've done to help. What you'll see is that despite encouraging big picture economic news, that there's still a lot of families hurting out there. When I read about a veteran having trouble finding a job and needing an extension of his unemployment insurance, or a single mother who can't make ends meet, I know we have a lot more to do. The Small Business Job Act of 2010 is just a start. We all know that small businesses are the engine of job growth in this country, and so that act has been a lifesaver, and we're beginning to see the results. The small SBA is reporting that business loans in Atlantic County doubled in value. In Cape May County, they quadrupled. They tripled in Cumberland County and increased by half in Ocean County. Small business loans have not only increased in southern New Jersey, but they are actually outpacing counties in the rest of the state. And that ultimately means jobs. But this isn't about numbers in my mind, although we certainly rejoice in them. It's about people at the end of the day. Small businessmen and women from different backgrounds with different ideas, all sharing the same American entrepreneurial dream, all embracing the take a chance spirit that makes this country great. People like Jim Remy and Joe Tamanini of Greenway Computers in Summers Point. It's a green company that recycles old computers. Or John Britton and Tom Schultz, who started mechanical supply in Egg Harbor because they worked in the HVAC industry and saw a need for a local distribution center for the supplies needed to service their clients. They're small business owners who took a chance, took a risk, and hopefully now it's paying off. I'll let them speak for themselves, but they truly embody the American entrepreneurial spirit that takes an idea, and makes it a reality. And along the way, there are some smart, hard-working New Jerseyans who are going to work for them and help us lead out of the economic crisis that we're facing. It seems to me that instead of getting angry at government, they got to work, and the Small Business Administration stepped in and helped them with the capital they needed. Government can give you a work ethic that these businessmen have, but it can be a partner in the process, and it can give people like Jim and Joe and John and Tom a fighting chance. It can, and it did, restart lending after private markets froze because of what we saw on Wall Street, where over 8 years of regulators would look the other way, and investing in good ideas that entrepreneurs are willing to put some sweat equity in and take a chance. Investing $54 million to help small businesses grow and expand and create new jobs right here in southern New Jersey is what this is all about. And that's the opportunity that government can provide. One that ultimately takes the ideas, dreams, and aspirations of some and makes it a real opportunity for others.